Hello and welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. The Local Leaders Podcast provides a platform for successful business owners to share their stories, their experiences, their advice, and their ideas in order to help our listeners achieve more success in their business and in their lives. Get ready, another great show is coming up. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Restaurant Rising. We are super excited today. And by the way, I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. I almost forgot to introduce myself, but we're more excited about having Dave Sharp on here today with us from the Bricco Dining Group. And if I say out of Akron, Ohio, did I get the city right?
Yep, Akron, Ohio, home of LeBron James.
Yeah, I meant to ask you that earlier to make sure that you were right there in Akron. I know you've got locations in a couple different areas, but hey, welcome to the Restaurant Rising podcast, and thanks for being here, Dave.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Well, we like I said, are really excited to have you, and I'd love for you to share with our listeners. You've got a multitude of concepts and restaurant, food and beverage businesses. I'd love to kind of hear a quick summary of what Bricco Dining Group is all about, what all it is made up of.
Okay. Well, Bricco Dining started in 2002 and the downtown Akron location. That was the first location. And then it grew to 5 locations over through then until 2014. I picked it up. I bought it from a gentleman who grew it in May of 2019. So right about 9 months before COVID. So I decided my dream was always to build up a restaurant brand, multi-unit, but unfortunately, I bought it instead of developing it, which was probably easier than trying to develop a new concept. It was a popular brand here in town, so the owner approached me in October of 2018, and we came to terms, and we started working through all the deals, and we officially picked it up in May 30th of 2019.
Wow. You didn't just buy one, you bought a whole slew of them.
I bought 5 actually, but one of them, well, technically I bought 4. One of them, the 5th one, had a party center. It was an old building. Couldn't come to terms with the landlord on a deal, so I was able to convince the bank that I didn't need to add that one onto the portfolio, and I'm glad I didn't. The landlord ended up selling the building about 6 months later. Then the other problem was our downtown location, which was actually our flagship store, did end up a casualty of COVID. So that one is officially, it was just announced in the local paper that we will be closing that location down for the future. So we're working through the landlord right now and getting all that. But we still have our 3 concepts. We have our Bricco our Bricco West is our new location. It's actually was the old Bricco Cafe, but we kind of changed the concept. It's just open for dinner. 5 days a week, Tuesday through Saturday. It's kind of our high-end concept. A lot of pastas, fishes. I have a really good chef there who creates a different special every week. We do steaks, chops, different things like that, flatbreads. Our Bricco pub location is more of our pub bar location, burgers, fries, tater tots. We have buffalo wontons. Our risotto balls are very popular. Goat cheese marinara is a very popular dish. More of a kind of a hangout place. Come watch the game, come hang out with friends, bring the family in. And then our last location is Bricco Kent, which is in the heart of downtown Kent, where the University of Kent is. That is kind of our mid-range location. I would say it's more kind of like, I would say, I don't want to say your typical corporate type of restaurant, but we do everything fresh. So I would say we have the same kind of offerings. It's more Italian with a little bit of a Mediterranean flair. A larger restaurant. It's my biggest and busiest store. They do really well. They have a full patio service, bar, and then a full menu. So those are the 3 locations that we have right now. And then we're looking at expanding into this year and next year with building a new location in a very hot spot here in the town I live in of Cuyahoga Falls. And we're looking at a building there to develop a new concept. And then we're actually looking at getting into the food truck business come this summer.
Wow. Yeah, you got your hands full, because, and also you didn't mention, Dave, that your partners in a couple other businesses as well, the Speakeasy and the fine
Yes.
dining
Yeah,
restaurant.
I'm also quarter owner of a fine dining restaurant and a prohibition style speakeasy here in town that are in just north of downtown in an area called the North Side District, which was kind of an old area of town back in the Goodyear Tire days. It was kind of the bar hangout place for the workers, kind of seedy jazz, this kind of thing back in the 30s and 40s. And it was dormant for about 30 years. And they rejuvenated it about 15, 20 years ago and
Hmm.
built a huge high rise hotel, Courtyard Marriott, and a high rise condo place. And the restaurant that we own there actually was formerly Chrissy Hines' restaurant of the Pretenders, who's also from Akron.
Oh,
She
wow.
had a vegan restaurant there, and then she went out, and then we moved in and turned it into a fine dining restaurant.
Man, you really do. Between yourself and your wife, you got your hands full.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and I should mention that she's a vital component of the business as well.
Oh, absolutely. Right. She handles all my events and keeps me on task and keeps the staff on task. So she's very good at keeping order. Let's just say that I'm more of the left brain, loosey goosey theories and that kind of thing, and she keeps everybody on task. So we make a good team, and she does a lot to bring in the parties. I mean, actually, she was doing all our event planning over at the fine dining restaurant a couple years back, and I would say that was part of the reason that we had good growth. When I took over the restaurant, it was doing I think 700,000, and last year they did 1.6 million. So we had pretty good growth over the last few years. So, and that
Wow,
was a
that's
large part to a lot of the parties. And so that's what we're trying to bring to Bricco now is a lot more parties. We have 7 different party rooms from the 3 different locations. So that's kind of a new area that we're trying to really get into.
wow. That's pretty amazing, and that you were able to do that, and you pulled all that off and achieve that growth during COVID. Um,
Yes.
so let me just backtrack a minute. I'm gonna come back to a couple things you said, but I just want to ask, what it was, kind of just a quick summary of the pain and agony maybe that you had to go through after getting, acquiring the business and getting up and running, and then COVID hit. Did you have to make dramatic changes to menus or?
Oh, it's COVID. I've been saying this to everybody who listen, and I've talked to my team about this and other restaurant people. Is COVID has fundamentally changed the restaurant business forever. There's just, I think, huge sweeping systemic changes that have now happened in the restaurant world that we're all having to come to grips with. I mean, I have 28 years of experience. 20 of it I spent in the corporate world, getting corporately trained from every position, from dishwasher all the way up to area director, regional chef, whatnot. And yeah, buying Bricco in May, right before we were going really good. COVID hit. The Sunday before what was it? St. Patty's Day, when the closure happened, I had a huge meeting with my team because we knew these COVID changes were coming, and came up with a whole plan on pulling linens off the tables, not doing the shared bread, sanitizer stations, mask, we had a whole plan in place. And that was Sunday night at 6 o'clock. And then 2 hours later, the governor of Ohio announced that we were closing all the restaurants down on Tuesday.
Mhm.
Called everybody back and said, like I always say, what I tell you today is what I tell you today. What I tell you tomorrow is what I tell you tomorrow. So we had to change everything. And then it was quickly trying to secure all the food, figure out what we needed, what was going to get thrown out, keeping track of all that, and just getting the restaurant shut down and going from there. We opted not to do to go. I've just been doing this a long time and running the numbers, and it just wasn't going to be fiscally responsible. One, to just run to go, and two, if the idea was they wanted everybody home to try to flatten the curve, then I thought we needed to do our part and just close everything down and keep everybody at home. So we did close for the full March 15th through, I think we reopened the first restaurant in the second week of June. So we were closed like everybody else fully with no to go, no income for those 3 months of the closures.
Hmm.
So that
Now
was
that-
rough.
yeah, I was going to say that had to be a scary time, especially after just having acquired the business the previous year, and I'm sure it was not a pleasant experience.
No, it wasn't. But you always try to take the negatives and turn them into a positive. And I'm typically not one of those preaching of give you lemons, make lemonade kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I think we took advantage of COVID There was a lot of systemic changes that needed to happen in the restaurant from the previous ownership and whatnot. So COVID allowed us to do that. So since we went away for 3 months, we focused that time on making those changes to the menu, to the drinks, to the size of the glasses, to the way we pour, how we serve. So it actually it allowed me to make sweeping changes rapidly that you normally can't make in a restaurant, with menus and stuff like that. And it switched us over to QR codes, things like that, which are huge. I will never go back to printed menu again. I see no need for them. I don't know why we weren't doing QR codes before. It gives us so much more flexibility to control the menus, and pricing and everything else. So it was bad. It was rough. We lost 50% of our revenue, and haven't gotten it back. We were all open for lunch 7 days a week in all locations, and now we're not. So we've lost that. But we're coming back strong. And I think when we look back, COVID allowed us to make changes quicker than we would have if we would have stayed continued open.
Yeah. It sounds like you did the best you could, took advantage of the opportunity, made a lot of changes. Did you have to, you switched over to the QR code piece. So what's the technology behind that? Is that your POS system or?
No, actually it's Pop Menu, which
Okay.
a lot of people have been talking about. So I was an early adopter of Pop Menu here because I know somebody on the inside, and we started it about 5 years ago, and we never looked back. And it's been a huge technology boost for us. They provide the QR codes for not only the food menus, reviews, social media posting. It's just allowed us kind of a one-stop shop. One of the big problems that you always have in the restaurant business is all the places that your menus live and the internet. You have one on Yelp, you have one on TripAdvisor, you got one in your website, and then somebody comes in and like, oh, I want the Oysters Rockefeller. And like, we haven't had that in 3 months or 3 years.
Where did you even find it? And you're like, oh,
yeah, where did you even find? And then we look bad, that kind of thing. So with Pop Menu, it brings all of your menu items into one spot. So everywhere that your menu lives out in the internet, it's just a link that goes back to your website. So it raises our SEOs, it gets traffic on the website, it gets us to show them what we want them to see and not what Yelp or Google or TripAdvisor, whatever is putting out there. So it allows us more control over the concept.
Yeah. I love that.
Technology.
Yeah, I love that. I'm glad we got that in there because we had talked about, you and I talked about Pop Menu and how, how good that had been for your business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's primarily two that we see in the space, Pop Menu, and we see Bento Box. And I probably see a little more Pop Menu than the Bento. Although I'm sure that's a fine software as well, but each to his own, and you got to find what works for you and move forward.
Absolutely. And it's definitely worked for us.
Yeah, well, let me backtrack then again and go back and hit on kind of this growth piece that we're talking about. I'd love to hear more about the food truck concept and kind of what that's going to be all about and how you're gonna support that thing.
Well, honestly, the food truck business is something that's really new to me. I mean, most of my experience has been in the brick and mortar, four walls corporate restaurant. I worked for Akron Grill for almost 20 years in every facet of the business. So food trucks were new. Basically, what prompted me to look at the food trucks is we were looking at an old building here in town that I really liked. That was in a good, cool, up and coming area of town. And when I brought the contractors and HVAC people in, the cost to turn it into a restaurant was, close to 7 figures. And I'm thinking, I can buy 5 food trucks for that, brand new off the line for that, and have way less overhead and way less labor to run them. So did some research. Well, the thing with food trucks is a lot of people don't realize when they get into it is, you need a commissary kitchen. You can't prep on a food truck. So having our 4 locations, we can, prep out of those locations and then fill the food truck and then go to wherever we need to go. So, looking at the price, paying on a payment for a food truck and, only needing to bring in, a couple grand in sales, per month to cover your cost, sounded very appealing to me. So one of the buildings that our location, the pub is in, is up for sale, and we're probably going to be buying that location. It has an old Brugger's Bagels at the end of it, which we'll probably convert into a commissary kitchen for the food trucks, and then do like maybe a little breakfast lunch place so it's closed before the other place opens because we don't have a lot of parking. So it's kind of that coordination of where are you going to prep the food out of? Where are you going to park the food truck? So there's a lot of moving parts as far as getting it around, but the numbers look good as far as overhead and cost and what these food trucks can produce for you as extra income without having to add a whole bunch of other, overhead, managers and whole staffs and all the other things that go with it. You need, a couple of guys and a bunch of food, and you can make it work.
Well, and I love the way you kind of come around to the food trucks, because the more typical thing that you would see is people, someone starting the concept in a truck and then moving to brick and mortar,
Correct.
as it grows. But I love the fact that you're kind of taking it in the other direction and leveraging the resources available for the commissary kitchen and part use restaurant and all the things that you're doing to make that work. It's really a cool idea.
Yeah, I said, and I think it's really my wife's, vision. She really wanted a food truck. And I, at first, because I've never really been in the food truck business, and I know that the festival circuit is not where it's at. But I talked to a few of my friends in the business that have gotten food trucks, and they said, as long as you stick more to the private parties, the weddings, block parties, kids' birthday parties, things that it's a set amount to get to pull out of the parking lot is the way to go. Because a lot of times these festivals, they charge you $1,000 for the spot. And if it rains, you're out. So we probably won't be hitting a lot of those type of events up. It'll be more of the private, after the wedding, birthday parties, things like that. Pull a food truck in at 11 o'clock and feed everybody who's been drinking all night, kind of thing. So that's kind of what we're looking to, do for our niche in that regards.
Yeah, I really like that, because it's more of an event situation as opposed to just cruising around town and popping, showing up on Main Street or whatever and hoping people come.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of that. You see a lot of the different strategies and tactics, but I like what you're doing and kind of the way you built out your plan for that. What about the food component? Is it going to be more event type food? I mean, we're talking trays and things like that.
No, we're still working on that. I mean, we haven't even picked out a food truck yet, but our vision is to have kind of a basic truck that just kind of handles, has all the cooking equipment, flat top, charbroiler, fryer, oven, and cater the food to what they need. That's the beauty part about Bricco is one of the challenges is it's 3 different restaurants with 3 different concepts.
Yeah.
So it's hard to consolidate SKUs and things like that and try to keep inventory down when you have different menu items. So it's trying to find that perfect chicken breast that could be used across all 3 concepts. And the same for the food truck. So, if you're looking for us to do your meal for the party, then we can do burgers and our, pretzel chicken sandwich, and we can do some of our bigger items. If you just want the after the wedding crowd of fried food, then we can come with our risotto balls and our buffalo wontons and our goat cheese marinara. So the idea that, the beauty of Bricco, it said the challenge is we have so many different things, but the bonus is we can accommodate anybody. We can go fine dining. We just did a private party at somebody's house for 20 people, a 5-course meal paired with wine with a chef, that was there to provide it. We did the service. All the way down that if you just want, pitchers of beer and chips and nachos, we can do that at one of our private rooms as well. So we really go from high end to low end, and we can accommodate anything in between. So it's very customizable as far as what people want to do, and we can fit almost any budget.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's going to go over awesomely. Congratulations to your wife for having that vision and pushing you to get it done. And together you guys are gonna do really well with it. And I'm sure everyone in Akron and Kent and all those areas will be looking forward to you guys.
Yeah, we've seen have some. Yeah, there's been some good feedback from the few people that I've kind of shopped it around to and just mentioned it, and they seemed like, oh, that'd be great. But you will have to see. Proof's in the pudding. I'm very much a numbers guy and tracking everything, so we'll have to see. We'll have to hash it out. Got to spreadsheet it out first to make sure it's going to work and figure out what that everything we do, we always figure out what the break even point is, and if we can hit that break even point, everything after that is gravy. So I've always seen restaurant business plans and stuff where people come in and they try to show the bank that, oh, we'll do, $2.5 million our first year. And this is our, and like, really? So if you break down your seats and the amount of chairs you have and the average table is 2.3 guests, that means you're going to do 3 seatings a night, 7 nights a week. Yeah, I don't think so. So you have to kind of work backwards and figure out what is the minimum we need to do to keep the lights on, and if
Mhm.
that number is obtainable, we go from there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that formula sounds so simple when you say it, Dave.
Yeah, yeah. Well, simple is hard in this business.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's hard to pull it off, and but you're absolutely right. You got to know your numbers. You gotta find that break even spot, and so many people come into the business. I think with the love for food, and don't always have that financial acumen behind them, and that's the great thing about partnering. With yourself and your wife, you have both have different characteristics and strengths that you bring to the table, and so we're always encouraging, our restaurant owners, if there's something that you're missing that you just don't have, either hire it or partner with it.
Yep. Yeah, and
So
that's true. That's absolutely true.
yeah, it's you gotta have it all, because you can't fly by the seat of your pants and run a successful business, and especially when it's
No,
as complicated and complex as you guys have with all the different
yeah,
parts that are moving. Um,
it's the most complicated wristwatch you've ever tried to take apart and put back together.
and you're about to make it even more complex
Yep,
with food trucks all over town.
yep. Yeah,
Any
that's
idea
for
how
sure.
many you're gonna need?
I think one will be a good start for
Yeah,
there. I mean, well, we've talked about, we always have high expectations of our high hopes of other things, but I think one truck to start. The big question right now is deciding between a truck or a trailer. I have a big a big Ram pickup truck that I may just pass over to the company and then use that to haul the food truck around, or we may just buy a truck. It's just going to have to depend on whether it's used or new, and again, spreadsheeting it out and seeing what the payment's going to be every month. And if we can make that payment happen, then at least, it's got to at least break even. Can't go into any new venture that's going to lose money right off the rip. That's
yeah,
especially now with our margins as low as they are, things have gotten even tighter than they were before by a lot. So, prime costs have gone up almost 10% over the last, course of the year with everything. So that's been a challenge.
yeah. Is it possible these days to, and I know because you're working on sharing food items and SKUs across multiple concepts. Is 30% food cost attainable these days? I mean, is there a chance?
Yes. I mean, it is if big corporations are doing it. I talked to all of my old friends in the corporate world, but they have huge buying power.
Yeah,
So in the private world, it's rough. I mean, we're running between 32 and 34 right now. So, I mean, and that's pretty good considering the cost of everything that's gone up. So, but yeah, I don't know if 30s are possible anymore without raising your prices to the point where, people aren't going to pay $25 for a hamburger.
yeah,
They're not. So there's got to be that delicate balance of pricing versus cost and what you can do and driving it, but there's a million different ways to drive costs, from PMix, from menu placement to costing of certain items to, whatever. Yeah, I can talk all day about that. So, but we're doing pretty good. We've been moving things around on the menu a little bit. We like to, if something's not, we have a meeting every week and we talk about what's selling and not selling. And before we just decide to nix it off the menu, we'll move it to a different spot in the QR code lineup. A lot of times we find by just moving something from the bottom to the top, we'll sell more. The items that are super popular, that are number one, we'll take price on. I have this theory that, if an item's number one, you keep throwing 50 cents on it until it levels out. Because where is that line where people will, if they want something bad enough, where's that line where they'll be like, ooh, that's too expensive for that.
yeah.
And it's trying to find that happy medium, and allow those items to drive your cost, because they're your top sellers and hopefully with a lower cost item. You don't want your number one seller to be a 50% food cost, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, good, valid point. Gosh, so many different things to look at each and every day. It's just amazing how you can get your arms around it and try to hang on for the ride. It's like
Yeah.
riding a bull.
Well, it's technology. That's everything. We also use Restaurant 365, which helps bring all our numbers in together. So, and I just had this conversation with somebody who, waited tables during college and was intrigued by the business, and, asked how important, the numbers were. And I said, they're everything. I honestly feel that when people say that, 99% of restaurants fail in the first year, well, that's 99% of privately owned restaurants. Corporate restaurants don't fail. You don't see Chili's opening up and closing down, or Olive Gardens or any of those type of places, because they know all their numbers pulled before they even open the door. And I think that's a lot of problem that private people have is they don't know what their comp line is. They don't know what their food costs are. They don't know where they're bleeding money. And if you don't know where the money's going, how can you stop it? And when you're talking about 3 to 8% margins, there's not a lot of room for error. So you really have to be on top of that on a weekly basis. So that's the one thing that I kind of brought to this company is having that kind of corporate mentality of the number driven stuff, but without not all the bad stuff that comes along with corporate, like not giving a crap about people or, treating them as numbers and not human beings, and speaking about the wage line of just a number on a piece of paper and not understanding that that's somebody's rent payment or somebody's, hospital payment or somebody's car payment, and having to strike that balance between being a profitable company and making sure you're taking care of your people.
Yeah, and speaking of your people, with the different concepts you have, how many employees are you running today?
I think the last time, if we include all the places, close to 90. I think I started with 170. Lost a lot during COVID, didn't get a lot of them back. But I would say, yeah, between the Briccos, I think we're processing about 60, 50 checks a week, 60, and then another 20. So yeah, somewhere in the 70 range, 70, 80 range, I think.
Yeah, well, it's a big team, and that cost as well is part of the prime cost you mentioned earlier, and I'm assuming that's done nothing but gone up as well.
Yes, our wage, we've given out rate. Well, we started before COVID giving out raises, and then after COVID, we started to bring people up, and for a couple reasons. One, it was deserving, and I think $15 is a living wage. But it has been across the board, so it's made things a little more difficult. Back in my corporate days, I was lucky if I was allowed to give out a 25 or 50 cent raise, and now people are getting $1.50, $2 because you just have to stay competitive.
Yeah.
But for all those people that were out there complaining, oh, the prices of this, and you can't have $15 an hour, it's going to put everybody out of business. I ran the numbers when they talked about raising the federal minimum wage to $15, and it basically, with my P mix, it equated to adding a quarter to every beer, 50 cents to every appetizer, and 75 cents to $1 to every entree. And that more than enough covered the increase in wages. So there is a way to do it properly. You got to be on your numbers. You can't let things get away from you. That's the biggest thing.
Very well said. And just to give you an opportunity too, to talk about, I'd love to hear kind of your, how you're approaching the recruiting side, and why people have the opportunities that they have if they come work for Bricco. Because what I like about it is that you're a multi-concept and multi-opportunity employer. So just give us a quick spiel on kind of that as on the recruiting side, what you would tell people who are looking for an opportunity there in the Akron area.
Well, it's been a challenge without a question. We have not received, we do all our applications through online digital. Again, the technology, they can go to our websites and fill out the application there. And then those get forwarded on to the appropriate people. But the back of the house has been the biggest challenge. I mean, we are literally away from 2 people, quitting or moving on from disaster, and possibly even having to close down. We've been very fortunate up till now. Our overtime has been very minimal, which I hear from my friends in the industry is not the case. There's been a ton of overtime. But we try to recruit within as much as possible. I mean, we do obviously the Facebook posts and the Indeed and the ZipRecruiter and hang signs on the door. One of the things I'm doing right now at my Kent location, because I really need back of the house, is I'm offering a bounty. So any back of the house employee who brings in a new person who stays for 60 days, they get $150 cash. And that's just to basically, promote getting their friends in. And typically they're not going to bring somebody in that's going to be a flake or not do the job. Everybody wants to work by somebody competent. So as far as front of the house goes, we're getting a lot more applications. I've been saying to everybody who listen again with, the change in COVID is we are not going to see 35, 40, 30-year-old, 33-year-old old time restaurant employees walk through the door. Those days are gone. They've all left. So where it's at is the youngsters. I mean, right now, one of my location, I have 3 high school kids that are busing for me, and they're probably my 3 best employees. And they will eventually be servers and move on up. So I think the future of the business is getting them in young, getting these kids that are in high school or college that want the flexibility of the schedule, aren't qualified to do much else, and get them in and train them. The training is a big piece now. That's a lot of the other things we're starting to realize is you're not getting professional servers that come in that understand basic serving concepts. So we've had to go back and, we had a story just with a brand new server that we had the other day where she waited on us. We always go in and have the new servers wait on us. And she did a fine job, but she didn't do any suggestive selling. She just said, "Are chips okay with the sandwiches?" Well, you can upgrade our chips for $2 to fries or tater tots. So we told her, said, "Hey, when you talk to your tables, instead of saying, 'Are chips okay?' say, 'Hey, would you like, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah.'" Well, the next day she upsold $2 on every single sandwich that she had. So it's just about getting the information out there. And I think we used to make a lot of assumptions in the restaurant world when we hired people that had experience that they knew those things. And we just have to assume that they don't know anything, which is an advantage because we can teach them the way we want them to do it versus sometimes you get the old servers in that just think they know everything and they want to do everything the way they do it. So the front of the house, we're okay. We're getting a lot of good applications. We're cycling through. Our turnover has gone way down lately. We were running way over 200%. And I think we're probably in the 90s now, which is pretty good for restaurants, especially this time. But the back of the house is the biggest challenge. And I think between the Amazon jobs and the truck driving jobs and the gig economy and those kind of things, it's, one of my chefs said, we're at the point now in the kitchen is we're not going to get anybody who wants to work in a restaurant kitchen. We're only going to get people that have no other choice, which sounds sad, but it's kind of where the industry's at right now. So, but we'll take them and train them and, we just do what we can.
Well, and even with that said, you create an opportunity for someone who probably didn't have any opportunities before, and
Correct.
Or maybe wasted them for whatever reason, which sometimes people do, and so on the positive side, you're helping to create positive contributors to society and giving them opportunities. So,
and we're very much about that here at Bricco. I mean, we're very much family oriented. I offer medical benefits to all my staff. I pay half. I offer paid vacation to hourlies after a year if they average 32 hours. We also have 401k and I match 3%. We also have done stuff. I've, helped people through rehab. I've gotten people laptops so they could do mental wellness checkups with their doctors. I bought a kid a bicycle because he was walking to work every day and he was having a hard time getting to work and the bus systems aren't the greatest around here. So we bought him a bicycle to get to work. So it's, it's about, this week, my wife for Valentine's Day took over a huge pile of cookies and candy and cupcakes for everybody. It's just a lot of these corporate restaurants, can afford to pay these people a lot more than we can because they just have deeper pockets. And because they've been paying their executives so much for so long, if they can cut back on that, they have money to pay their staff, which is what they should have did 20 years ago. So the advantage we have is that they want to work for us. So we try to do what we can to, we keep our managers under a 45-hour work week, which is unheard of in the restaurant business. Most managers work at a 55-hour week. We try to keep ours at 45. We don't want the restaurant world to be your entire existence. That's what my wife and I went through. I mean, I've spent 40 to 100 hours in a restaurant every week since I've been 18 years old. And it's taken a toll. I've missed a lot of family stuff and those kind of things. And a lot of people have, the business is chewed up and spit out a lot of people. And we're trying to change that a little bit and make it so that the restaurant doesn't have to be your entire life or worse yet, take your life, which it unfortunately has had in many cases.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're doing so much for your employees that it sounds like an awesome place to work, great environment, great family, tradition and values and all that. Plus you're paying out a lot of benefits and you don't always see that in this space. So anyone that's looking for an opportunity, Bricco Dining Group, Akron, Ohio, get there.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is a lot of people don't take advantage of it. I mean, during COVID, a lot of these Facebook pages and stuff with these restaurant workers were so disgruntled and, owners hate us and they don't take care of us and we're just a number and the money and, no benefits. And, we offer all these benefits, but a lot of the kids don't take advantage of them. They really don't. It's hard to get them to sign up for the 401k. It's a 3% raise right off the rip. And they don't, medical benefits, some of them take advantage of. My managers take care of all the benefits. I also pay dental and eye for them 100%. And just try Christmas bonuses. We're still paid out Christmas bonuses this year. And, we look at it this way. We're fine. We're okay. Our house payments are made. Our car payments are made. Our kids are in school. 2 of them have moved out. There's no reason that we need to rack up, a bunch of money. We try to put back in as much as we can, even if it's not with pay. It's remodeling the places, making them better, cleaner, more organized. I took over a lot of old buildings. I'm very big on having everything fixed. I hate it for my hourlies to have to deal with broken equipment. So we PM everything, which comes at a cost, quarterly PMs on everything, but very rarely do I get a call on a Saturday night that a cooler went down or they lost a freezer or the walk-in or something to that effect. And that's just, you have to pay that money up front, but you don't get caught with those emergencies because those ancillary costs are what get you. It's those things when the cooler breaks down on a Saturday night and you have to shut down, or, you got to call the guy in on a Sunday and you pay twice as much. So it's always a balance.
Always a balance. And, it's like I said earlier, it's like riding a bull when you got such all the different business concepts that you got and all the people and the customers, not to mention the customers. We love the customers, but you got to take care of them and provide a level of service that'll keep them coming back. It's just a tremendous undertaking. And so congratulations to you and your wife for the great job you've done so far in getting through COVID and getting hopefully past COVID here one of these days.
I think we're past.
Yeah, I believe so too. I'm just scared to say it,
Yeah, I know. Well, the winter, we're here in a Northeast Ohio. Obviously, the weather's crappy here, so it's different for people in other places. But we're seeing a big increase in sales and mainly guest counts. I personally like to use guest counts as more of a indicator of the health of the business, because I always hated it in corporate where they'd be like, "Oh, we're up 3% in sales. Look at us," but they took 4% on the menu, so of course they're up in sales, but they'd look at the guest counts and we were down. So, the most expensive thing in a restaurant's an empty seat. So I always try to track how many butts and seats that we have. So we're seeing an increase in more people. I think when the weather breaks here, with COVID's kind of waning away, I think a lot more people are going to come out. We're going to see a very solid summer, is what I'm predicting.
And do you got, I didn't ask you before, but do you have an outdoor space as well in any of the
I do. We're very fortunate with that. We have a patio at every location. And actually one of our locations is in a hotel, which has a beautiful courtyard in the back, which now we have 100% access to. So I have 2 outdoor spaces at that location. I have 1 outdoor space at my Kent location, and my pub location has a patio. And then we were able to expand into the parking lot due to the fact that the liquor control just kind of loosened up the reins a little bit on what you can use for patio space. So we bought some wooden dividers on wheels and decorated them with lights and flowers and whatnot, and added 25 more tables to the patio. So that's been huge for us. And I'm going to keep doing that till somebody tells me not to. So like I said, it's always better to ask for forgiveness and beg for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's one of my favorite mottos. I've been using it since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Trying to get myself out of a lot of trouble, but it's if you got initiative, you got to roll with it. And that's what it takes these days.
Yeah. The problem is when the staff uses it back on you, and then you can't say anything.
Yeah, then and you can't do anything but shake your head. You're like, oh man, you learned it from me. I can't.
Yep, exactly.
I can't say a thing. Well, everything you guys are doing is it's just so interesting to kind of hear your story and hear all the things that are going on, in the Bricco Dining Group business. Give me a website. I know that you got a couple different websites for your businesses, but they can get to all your different concepts through any of them. So let's put that out for our listeners who are not watching on YouTube.
Yeah, so we have pubbricco.com, and they're part in kentbricco.com, and then briccowest.com. Are the 3 concepts that you can get to. And then all of them are linked together. So if you go to the bottom of any one of the home pages and click on any of the other logos for the other locations, it'll take you right to there. The other nice thing about our websites is it has a spot for employee applications. It has all our menus and events, and it also has a form to fill out if you're looking for any event space. You can go on there and say, how many people, what time, the date, the type of event it is, wedding, birthday party, bar mitzvah, whatever. And then those forms go right over to my wife, and then she responds back within 48 hours. And we do everything on email. That way there's no he said, she said, or anything. So all that runs through the website. So again, the technology allows us to keep things in track and in order, and we don't lose anybody because a host took down a name in the middle of the rush and then forgot to pass it on. So we try to take that, those problems out of their hands as much as possible. And they need to focus on the restaurant, not taking messages for us, when there's technological ways to accomplish those goals.
Yeah, exactly. And so thank you for sharing that. And again, the event business is thriving with Dave and his team and his wife. So, if you're in that area and you've got opportunities or events coming up, make sure you check out the website, look at all the different options. They can feed you just about anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything from
And
shrimp
before
and
long,
scallops down to shrimp and scallops, all the way down to, we have Monday nights, our $5 burger night. We do really well. We got Tuesday dollar tacos at the pub. We do industry night where anybody in the industry that comes in gets, I think 15 or 20% off. And then every Wednesday at all the restaurants is wine night. And all our bottles of wine are half off. So we try to make that kind of a fun wine night. Come in with your friends or whatever, buy a bottle to go, buy one there. We have our own labeled wine. We partnered with Rutherford Ranch, and we have a red and a white that has our logo on it, our label that we sell. That's kind of our house wine. It's been very popular. And the wine night has really kind of taken off as far as, people coming in and you can get a bottle of, good wine for $12, in the restaurant, take it home with you. We have packaging license as well. So you can drink half of it there, cork it up, put it in a bag, take it home with you, finish it there. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, we also have to-go drinks here in Ohio. So we also will sell cocktails to go. So if you come in and you want to have one more when you get home because you don't want to have one more there because you got to drive, that's great. We'll sell you one of our drinks in our little to-go pouches, and you're perfectly legal to take those home with you and finish them there.
Man, perfect. What more could you ask for?
About a 40% increase in sales.
Well, we hope that we can help get some. And our hope is with our podcast, and we'll be able to reach some people maybe that we didn't reach before, that weren't aware, of such great opportunities for dining and enjoying one another's company, or for events, that we'll reach some people that maybe we hadn't reached before. And is there anything, before we go, is there anything that you wanted to share that I have failed to inquire about?
Well, one of the things I've seen you talk about the others, just like for those people out there that are thinking about getting into the restaurant business. So, and it's rough right now. And I would give the advice to anybody who's out there who's thinking about it is if you're not a restaurant person, and I it's kind of hard to describe, but I've always said the world's divided into two different people, restaurant people and everybody else.
Yeah.
And if you're not a restaurant person, and you don't have the passion and the love and the drive and the understanding of what you're sacrificing to go into, it's not something, to go into. I've seen so many retired cops, teachers, lawyers, that invest their retirement money in a bar because they thought it'd be cool to own a bar and it'll be fun. Their friends will be there. And, they don't realize that they don't have that many friends that are going to come into their bar 5 days a week to keep them afloat. You have to understand your numbers. Rigor is a word I use a lot. You have to have the rigor to take the time to put into seeing how each, number functions, how it functions in the restaurant, what PPA does to your labor, what raising your wages does to your labor, how to leverage, food costs by putting them on the menu. It's a very complicated thing. So anybody who's out there doing it, make sure if you're not into it and you want to invest in one, that's great, but find somebody who is a restaurant person who enjoys it. Because, I hate to see these people that go in and they invest, hundreds of thousands of their retirement money into a business and not, then they get into it and they're like, oh, margins are 8%. And, I didn't realize that unemployment insurance was this high. And, there's just a lot of, it is a very, very, very complicated watch, and you have to know how every cog fits together. And if one of them goes down, the whole thing falls apart. And, not to scare anybody away, but it's just like I said, the 99% of businesses that fail are mainly privately owned restaurants for people that just don't understand fully what they're getting into, and the time that it takes to do it. So luckily we have managers and stuff that we pay to watch the restaurant, so we don't have to be there every single day. Our plan to get out and leave the legacy I want to leave behind is I'm going to plan on pushing all the ownership of the restaurants down to my management team, from corporate down to my GMs, whether it's partial ownership, proprietorships, but I want to leave behind the opportunity for them to grow wealth for themselves and have this business support them, because there's so many people in this industry that work 30, 40, 50 years for a corporate restaurant and never really break through into the upper echelon. And, there's no retirement, there's no pension, there's no anything in this business. So if you don't make it for yourself, you're not going to make it. So my main goal is I want to be able to pass down this ownership of these locations to my corporate team and to my GMs and chefs, and have them have a part of it so that they can, basically figure out how to eat what they kill, go out there and make some money and figure out how to make it work, and hopefully develop something that they could support themselves and their families like it has for me for the next 20 years.
Well, that is an awesome goal, and kind of, I guess, one of the demands you put on yourself, you and your wife put on yourselves, to be able to give back and to give people opportunities, and to not just totally kill yourself trying to run this thing up as big as you can and for as long as you can, because quality of life is important, not only for the employees but for the owners as well. So
yep.
Good for you. I'm so glad to hear kind of what you have going on there, and what a great opportunity for anyone looking for a place to go, especially those back of house people. Get over to Bricco and help them out a little bit.
Yeah, the back of the house is the biggest challenge. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say I've had one back of the house application in the last 18 months, and the one person that applied said they wanted cash under the table every day or they wouldn't work. And I'm not running two sets of books for that kind of stuff. We run everything legit through payroll and all that. So yeah, that's difficult. So that's why most of the back of the house people we've gotten through other back of the house people that have a friend or a relative, or, and it's hard too, because we needed more people during the holidays, and then January comes and you got to cut them out. So, that's the other balance, is trying to find people from other locations that maybe aren't getting enough hours at one location and bringing them over. That's the other benefit of having multiple locations. Like, I just picked up 2 pantry people from my fine dining location because their hours were cut back. So now they're going to be helping out at another restaurant that was running short on Saturday and Sunday. So it's really, I will say the other, as the people piece goes, I used to read a lot of corporate books. I've read all the different, management books throughout, tens of, dozens of them or whatever. And now it seems like I get more from reading self-help books and mental illness books and how to handle people than I do for management books. And that's the other thing that's changed the landscape of this business, is you can't manage these kids the way we used to manage them 15 years ago. That's just not possible.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm sorry to laugh, but that was you're exactly right. It's a crazy world out there, and you got to get with the crazy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that you're on the ball and doing everything you possibly can to keep everyone and everything, some semblance of sane, that you present to the public. And it's awesome to kind of get behind the scenes and hear from you, Dave, about what it's like to run this restaurant, and how hard it is, and how many different things you've got to keep going, and balls in the air and all that to make it successful. But you and your wife done a great job, so congratulations. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing all this with myself and our listeners.
Absolutely.
Well,
no problem. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I love what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. And it's people like you that keep us going, and to offer your advice and counsel and ideas. And I mean, you share a lot of stuff, a lot of great pieces of pearls of wisdom, as I like to call it, that any of our listeners can pull just a few pieces out of there and add to their business to make it that much more successful. Then we've done our job, and we all again thank you for being a part of it.
And no problem. I appreciate it.
Hey, and for all of our listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of our Restaurant Rising podcast. We are so happy that you joined us. Hope you'll continue to do so, and come back for more great entrepreneurs like Dave Sharp here with the Bricco Dining Group. Be sure to visit them if you're in the Akron or in the Ohio area, or you're just passing through. Make sure you stop off for a great dinner, lunch, cocktail, whatever it may be. We want to support our guests as much as we can, and we hope that you'll do that. And we'll catch you next time on Restaurant Rising. Thank you.